In 1 Samuel chapter 1, we are going to meet a very special lady. If we're not very careful as Christians, we can develop a stained glass window saint mentality. And what that is through familiarity with stories, through hearing of these ancient people and their names over and over and over again, and hearing some of the events of their lives over and over and over again, we can begin to wonder, oh, how it would have been in the good old days, when everything was wonderful, and it wasn't. When miracles happened all day long, but they didn't. When people were larger than life, but they weren't. But we can have this stained glass window saint mentality when we look at people of the Bible. And while we see the sun is shining through the window and the stained glass is so beautiful and it's placing fiery little reflections upon the wall behind us, and it's so shimmering and it's so glorious, the stained glass window is still only a mere caricature of a real living person. The Bible is filled with real living people. This morning I would like to lift up to you a real, living, honorable mother. In 1 Samuel chapter 1, beginning with verse 1, this is in the period of the judges. This is before the monarch. This is before Saul became king of Israel, and then David, and then Solomon, and so on. This is the period before a king. This is the time where a prophet was needed to transition into a kingdom, and this was God's provision. The Bible says there was a certain man of Ramathaim Zophim of the hill country of Ephraim, and it was Elkanah, the son of Joram, son of Elihu, son of Tohu, son of Zuph, an Ephrathite. He had two wives. The name of one was Hannah, which means grace, or it means favor, and the name of the other, Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. Now this man used to go up year by year from his city to worship and sacrifice to Yahweh of hosts at Shiloh. That was where the tabernacle was, the tent of meeting. This was before, of course, there was a permanent established temple there at Jerusalem, where the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were priests of Yahweh. On the day when Elkanah was sacrificed, he would give portions to Peninnah, his wife, and to her sons and daughters, but to Hannah he gave a double portion, because he loved her, though Yahweh had closed her womb. And her rival used to provoke her grievously to irritate her, because Yahweh had closed her womb. So it went on year by year. As often as they went up to the house of Yahweh, she used to provoke her. Therefore Hannah wept and would not eat. And Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Hannah, why do you weep? Why do you not eat? Why is your heart sad? Am I not more to you than 10 sons? Let's place in our minds a picture of what is happening. Elkanah is a righteous man, and so therefore he would go to Shiloh for the 3 required festivals, and he would take his family and they would come with sacrifice. And he had 2 wives. Hannah, perhaps being his first wife because she is mentioned first, had no children because the Bible said Yahweh had closed her womb. But then there was Peninnah, who did have offspring, and sadly she was very cruel to Hannah. so that when they would go and make their pilgrimage to Shiloh to sacrifice to the Lord, you would bring your sacrificial animal in. Part of it would be burned on the altar, part of it would be given to the priest who was officiating, and part of it you took and ate and had a feast on. But Peninnah was very cruel and kept reminding Hannah that she had no children. And it so upset her that what should have been a glorious time of the worship of Yahweh and a time of feasting was for Hannah mourning, so she couldn't even eat. Elkanah had given her a double portion, but she couldn't eat. She was so sad. Her husband tried to console her. Her husband sounds like a good man in this passage. He said, "Why are you so sad? Am I not to you as 10 sons? 10 meaning a great complete number." And he was trying to say, you are not alone. Hannah, you have me. I love you. But I'm sure that as men who are married and have children, you know who is more important in the house when there are kids present, and it's not you. A wife and a mother would leap over the body of her husband to go running to her child if her child was crying. There is something deep within the female soul, placed there by God, the desire to have children. And Hannah couldn't. In fact, we have, and it's interesting, we have a little clue in a Hebrew word which you find in the Old Testament. There is a Hebrew word called rakam. Rakam, and you find it in different places, and it could be translated as love or compassion. But you want to know what rakam really literally means? It means womb. Womb. And it's a very fitting picture because when you see the love that an expecting mother has with her child yet to be born, when you see the compassion, when children are lost, you see the great pain. It is no stretch of the imagination whatsoever to say compassion, racham, womb. There's something about a mother. We all know that on Facebook, the first pictures of new children that we're going to see are sonograms. And they might be stuck to the refrigerator, and then somebody takes her cell phone and takes the shot of the new child. And that is placed on Facebook so that people can rejoice with her in this child. And you, honestly, are staring at the sonogram thinking, what am I seeing? That's her child. That's her baby. No, the baby has not seen the light of day and will not for months, but that is her child. Her greatest possession. And if everything else blew away as long as she had her baby. My sister Melissa was very blessed by the Lord. She had a difficult pregnancy in her firstborn, her only born, Rebecca. And she had toxemia, she had HELP syndrome, and there was a chance that one or both could die. But I remember hearing from her own lips where Melissa said, "But let Rebecca live." She would, without a moment's hesitation, have died for her baby. That's the compassion of a mother. That's rahm. That's womb. And Hannah so desperately wanted a child. In the ancient Near East, it was very difficult to be a woman and not have a child. And so you look at our expectations of society and multiply them, and then you can begin to see something of the situation. Yahweh had closed her womb. But Hannah was not going to take that news, that state, that condition as the final word. God writes in 1 Samuel 1, beginning with verse 9, "After they had eaten and drunk in Shiloh, Hannah rose. Now Eli, the priest," this is the son of this is the father of the Hophni and his brother Phinehas, and they were worthless priests. But Eli was the older priest. Now Eli the priest was sitting on the seat beside the doorpost of the temple of Yahweh. She was deeply distressed and prayed to Yahweh and wept bitterly. And she vowed a vow and said, "O Yahweh of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your servant and remember me and not forget your servant, but will give to your servant a son, then I will give him to Yahweh all the days of his life, and no razor shall touch his head." When it comes to a mama or a lady who desires to be a mama, when it comes to them getting serious before the Lord and praying, I wouldn't bet money against them. I don't know where I would be in this life were it not for my mother's prayers. Dad, too, yes, of course. Many people have prayed for me. People in this church pray for me daily. And as I honestly say, I need every one of them. But there's something about Mom's prayers that's just different. Not better than, it's just different. Every Sunday, when I come out and I bless you, Yahweh bless you and keep you, Yahweh make his face, I bless you, but every Sunday morning on my cell phone, I get a message from Mom in which she blesses me and the congregation as the word is preached. And then I always type the same thing, and also with you. Mom is blessing me every Sunday morning. Mom is in prayer for me every day. And when it comes to a mother who sees problems and difficult times for her children, that is when mothers get very serious about prayer. Here, Hannah did not have a child. God's sovereignty, he had closed her womb. And so she got to praying. She made a vow to the Lord. She made a commitment to the Lord. She said, "If you will just give me a son, I will make him take a Nazaritic vow for all of his life." For the Hebrews, if you wanted to make a vow before the Lord, you could take a short-term Nazaritic vow in which you refused to cut your hair, and you would not drink strong drink, and you would not get near a dead body. And those were some of the conditions to become a temporary Nazarite. Well, Hannah said, "If you give me a son, Yahweh, I will make him a permanent Nazarite, and he will minister before you all the days of his life." So her love brought her to this vow that she made to the Lord. If you will simply give him to me, I will turn around and I will give him to you for service at the temple. This was not simply some fast-moving prayer that just unassumedly went through the lips of her mouth. In fact, she was praying so seriously. She was praying so with such ferocity that Eli thought she was drunk. Verse 12, as she continued praying before Yahweh, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was speaking in her heart, only her lips moved and her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli took her to be a drunken woman. And Eli said to her, "How long will you go on being drunk? Put your wine away from you." Well, that wasn't even going to deter her. You know, it's really bad when the preacher is accusing you of being drunk and you're not. But that didn't even stop her. But Hannah answered, "No, my Lord, I am a woman troubled in spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but I have been pouring out my soul before Yahweh." She's begging, pleading as a mother can. "Do not regard your servant as a worthless woman, for all along I have been speaking out of my great anxiety and vexation." She has been pouring her heart out to God. Then Eli answered, "Go in peace, and the God of Israel grant your petition that you have made to him." And she said, this is an interesting play on words. It's a pun on her name. And she said, "Let your servant find favor in your eyes." Well, her name, Hannah, means favor. Then the woman went her way and ate, and her face was no longer sad. They rose early in the morning and worshiped before Yahweh. Then they went back to their house at Ramah. Then Elkanah knew Hannah, his wife, and Yahweh remembered her. And in due time Hannah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Samuel, for she said, "I have asked for him from Yahweh." It's a beautiful story. It's a true historical account of a woman who laid hold of the altar, as we might say. A woman who got serious with God in prayer for a son, and God, in his sovereignty, gave her this child, and she named him aptly Samuel. Samuel. Why is that name important? Well, because all through King Saul's monarchy, you see Samuel. And you see it was Samuel who went to Bethlehem and who anointed this young shepherd man named David. The man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer to Yahweh the yearly sacrifice and to pay his vow. But Hannah did not go up, for she said to her husband, "As soon as the child is weaned, I will bring him, so that he may appear in the presence of Yahweh and dwell there forever." Elkanah, her husband, said to her, "Do what seems best to you. Wait until you have weaned him. Only may Yahweh establish his word." So the woman remained and nursed her son until she weaned him. And when she had weaned him, she took him up with her, along with a 3-year-old bull, an ephah of flour, and a skin of wine, and she brought him to the house of Yahweh at Shiloh. And the child was young. Then they slaughtered the bull, and they brought the child to Eli that is the prophet over the house of the Lord. And she said, "Oh, my Lord, as you live, my Lord, I am the woman who is standing here in your presence praying to Yahweh. For this child I prayed, and Yahweh has granted me my petition that I made to him. Therefore I have lent him to Yahweh. As long as he lives, he is lent to Yahweh." And he worshiped Yahweh there. This is where it gets harder. She had great vexation in her spirit, the Bible said. Out of the anxiety and distress of her heart, she was praying. She wanted a child. She got hold of God in a way that so many mothers do for their children. But she vowed a vow to Yahweh. And she told the Lord that if you give me him, I will turn around and give you him. Oh, and that's where it's difficult, isn't it? Receiving children from the hand of the Lord is glorious and wonderful, but being a mama and having to give them back, not to God necessarily, but to the world as they get older, that's the hard part. How many Facebook postings have I seen where one of my friends has posted a picture of her child, and she says something to the effect of, "I can't believe how fast this child has grown," or "I don't know where the years have gone." But children grow. Now, you may not have vowed a child to the service of the Lord. If you brought your child here, we wouldn't know what to do with him at First Church. They did at the temple. He got put to work. But every mother, at one point or another, has to give her child back. High school graduation comes so soon, doesn't it? I mean, you're looking around, you see a little rugrat going around one minute, the next minute, he or she has a diploma in his hand, running off with his friends. And you're thinking, how did this happen? College graduation comes and it goes. You give your child to the world of employment, if by the grace of God he can find it. You see your child get married, and you shift from mother to matriarch as your child has children. But you begin to wonder, where the years go? Where the years go? In my own specific case, I remember I left for Mid-America Bible College in Oklahoma City. I had graduated from Boyd County High School in 1989 at the age of 17, and I was still 17 when I went to college. And I happened to go to college for that first semester of my freshman year, and it was Sunday morning. And so I piled into the car with some other guys, and we took off to our great college adventure, and there was Mom there on Fairway Drive. And it was Sunday morning, and so she had to go to church and not fall apart. Looking back, Mom thinks, why did I go? Why didn't I just stay home and fall apart? Mothers give their children back. They give them back to the world. They give them back to the children's destiny, to the future. They give them in hope. But they give them. It's not easy, this high calling of motherhood. you are asked to carry a baby for 9 months. And it changes you physically, continues to change you physically. But your love for your child only grows as she grows in the womb. Sometimes you have to give them to heaven. Sometimes you give birth to them here on earth. And you have to take this child and love on this child and pour all that you have into this child and pray for this child. Pray a hedge of protection around this child and somehow find a solution to any problem which may come up. But in the end, you have to let go. You have to give your child. They can't stay small forever. They must grow up, become mothers and fathers themselves. For the mothers in this room, I congratulate you, and I am, quite frankly, in awe of you, of all that you have done and are called to do, and of those who have wanted to be mothers, but have not been able to. My heart goes to you, and I am the first to confess that as a man, I have no comprehension as to the depth of that feeling. To all of the ladies, as I have said, to the ladies who are mothers, who will be mothers, who have mothers or who have had mothers, to all of the ladies, may God bless you very richly this special day. And I'd like to ask, if there is anyone here, could be a mother, could be a father, simply a man or a woman like me. If maybe you have looked with some regret in the past and you thought, I wish I could do things over. It's a common refrain. We can't change the past, but what we can do is change the future. Do you know the Lord Jesus, a saving relationship? So that you can be a praying mother and you can be a mother who gives her child to the world? Or are you a man, father or not, and you would like to change your life? This Mother's Day is a very special opportunity for you to do so. We can't change what happened yesterday, but we can change what's going to happen tomorrow. So as we stand and as we sing, I'd like to ask if there is anything at all, that you would like to pray to the Lord about, salvation or otherwise. These altars are open to you.